This is the City Newsroom on City TV. So we're still talking about floods. Now, let me remind you that in 2019, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly launched its first resilience strategy. Now, this was supposed to help the country deal with some global and local shocks. Now, 3 years down the line, how have we fared in terms of managing some of these shocks? I have here with me on the City Newsroom former Chief Resilience Officer, Mr. Desmond Appiah. Thank you very much. Welcome to City Newsroom.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
What was the strategy, in dealing with floods?
There are a number of measures that were outlined in the strategy, which there are other institutions that have the responsibility. If we continue at it, it's going to take some time, but we'll get there. But if we act professionally, purposefully in the first year and just stop, we are not going to get there. There are projects ongoing, like the garage, which was also started at that time with the consultations and the like. That introduced, because we're really emphasizing the issue of waste, introduced the waste measure also into it. It is not just a matter of build bigger drains. No, there are other factors. There are places that they don't have big drains, but there are no flooding, just because the drains are clear. So you build those drains, you ensure you improve your waste management, you involve the informal sector in all of these things, you do your education, you have your early warning systems, you have all these factors. What is the engagement that we hear when it's going to rain? Most of the things we do are reactionary. After the fact, we all jump up, we are all crying. But in the course or before the action, Meteo is doing well, giving us announcement, we're going to have heavy rain. Which of the areas are getting announcement to say, beware because you are in a flood zone? When you see the water has gotten to this level, these are the precautions to take. Which areas? So it is not just something you do once. You have to keep at it. It takes a while, but if you keep at it, you'll get there.
Right. So, former Chief Resilience Officer, now advise us, advise government, advise the assemblies, advise citizens. How do we ensure that we follow through with this resilience strategy?
I think the steps are clear. The factors that affect us or cause this situation are clearly outlined, not only in the resilience strategy, in other government strategies. We have to implement. Our biggest challenge, unfortunately, is that we don't implement. We've been to Rwanda, everybody is mentioning Rwanda. They implement. They don't just plan, they implement, so that they can find out what the challenges are in the chain and correct them. We should implement. That's why everybody says we do well developing plans and all that, but we don't implement. So let's jump away from just developing the plans. Let's implement what we have. Let us then check to be sure that they work well. And then if there need to be some changes and tweaks, we do that.
Now we are in an office where I can imagine how officials in this department are faring. That is the National Disaster Management Organization. Now, Mr. Abu Ramadan is the Deputy Director General of NADMO. Welcome to City Newsroom.
Thank you.
What would you say are some of the issues, that have brought us to where we are? Why we continuously record such devastation in terms of flooding?
Basically, I drill it down to one thing: is the filth. We can't run away from that honest truth. It's a filth. Aside that, there's no other reason why the volumes of water that are coming should not be able to, our drains should not be able to contain the volumes of water.
Now, I'm glad that we've been able to identify what the issues are. What are we doing about this?
The assemblies need to wake up and take sanitation very serious. The Minister of Sanitation, I'm sure, is bent on making sure. That's why the regional minister has launched Operation Clean Your Frontage. It's all part of reasons why we're ways of trying to get the issue resolved. But I think we should be more responsible as citizens to make sure that we can check the problem of filth properly. If we're able to resolve it, we shouldn't have a problem at all.
Now, from where you sit as Deputy Director General, do you see the nation winning this fight?
It's a tough one, but I'm confident with the sort of projects that government has put in place, the Garrett program, for instance, where they are trying to work on the Odo channel. We should see some improvement in the years coming. When you talk of the Wager Basin area too as well, between tomorrow and Friday, we're going to open the estuary to to open it bigger, so that the amount of water that goes into the sea would increase, because the dams, they've opened the spillway and they are spilling alongside the heavy rains we are facing. So the estuaries must open, if the need be, open a second estuary, so that will allow more water to flow. And so the measures government is putting in place are satisfactory so far, but they are more of long-term than short-term measures for us. So we will get there.
Right. So in the short term, what can we do? If you are to advise the government, if you are to advise citizens, what would you tell us to do so we don't record this level of devastation next year?
Let's be disciplined. Let's stop throwing rubbish everywhere. We should be responsible in terms of our waste, how we manage our waste systems. If we're able to do that, and if you want, take time and look at all the footages you see from every location. There's no location that comes out with clean water. You either see plastic or you see logs that have been cut. You see, and in some places you go and see recycled tools like ties, fridges that have been dumped into the drains. So if we are a little responsible ourselves, we should be able to fight this naturally.